So we have this frenzied mind that's just spinning and spinning, and all of a sudden what happens? We say yes to so many things that we get completely burnt out. I was at a police department, in a training rather, a couple months ago, and I asked the people taking the training, I said, what do you do for your agency? What do you do? And they started rattling off tactics. They're like, oh, I do bulletins, I do CompStat, I do presentations, I do reports. And I'm like, no. What's your purpose? What do you do for your agency? What's the why? Why are you reading those reports? Why are you producing those reports? Why are you spending your time doing these things? And they couldn't answer. They're like, because my boss tells me to. What we're doing here is really getting so solid on that purpose, that why we're doing what we're doing, that it's gonna help eliminate the nonsense that we don't need to be paying attention to. When we are connected with the whole purpose behind it, that creates clarity on the yeses and nos that we make in our lives. So if you're saying to yourself, I don't know what the purpose of my products are, I don't know what the purpose of my processes are, then I encourage you to start there. I encourage you to write down all of your processes, all of your products, and figure out, does this product or does this process fulfill a why? And the ones that are not pointing you in that right direction, you eliminate or you discover their purpose. Number 2 is create an 80-20 lifestyle. The 80-20 rule says, in policing, it says that 80% of the crime is committed by 20% of the people. So if we're gonna be most impactful, if we're gonna have the most amount of results, we wanna focus on those 20% of the people who are committing 80% of those crimes. The same is true in your life. What 20% of things do I need to work on, right, that are gonna really fulfill 80% of my goals, of the things that I wanna achieve? All right, so here we have a bowl. This bowl represents life. These apples represent your goals, right? Your big picture goals that are really special and important to you. These nuts represent all of the shiny objects that come into your sights, like all the stuff, all the nonsense that goes into your head. Okay, so they go into your life first, right? Then you say to yourself, all right, well, wait a second, I really have this big goal. And so after all the nonsense goes in, you start putting in these big goals, right? They don't fit. But all the nonsense is in there. All the extras is in there. All the FOMO, all the fears, all the other stuff that comes into your world is in there because there was no focus, right? What if you decided to focus on those things first every single day? So now all these requests, all these things come into your life, all these fears, all the FOMO, like scrolling through Facebook, all of that comes into your life. What do you see? What do you see here? It fits. It all fits. When you put what's priority in first, everything fits where it's supposed to. But when you start with the little things first, your priorities get booted. The third way to kick frenzy to the door, right, is the compound effect. Small choices consistently and persistently over time make radical change. So you have this block of ice, right? It's really cold outside. The temperatures, let's say, are below 0. Let's just make it fun, right? But you're at this wheel, somehow you're at this wheel and you're making heat, right? You're making some heat. And so the temperature goes from 0 degrees or below 0 to maybe 5 degrees. But the block of ice is exactly the same. You're creating more heat, and you're like, oh my God, is this even worth it? Is this thing ever gonna melt, right? And now it's 20 degrees and this block of ice is still as solid as a rock. And you thinking to yourself, I am working so flippin' hard. Why is this ice not melting? You don't see the results, and so maybe you give up, right? And maybe you try just a little bit more, consistently and persistently, every day, small, incremental. And all of a sudden it hit some peak point and it started to melt. And that started this momentum, this accelerated process, and it just kept on melting and melting and melting until it was all water. Small incremental habits over a long period of time create radical change, create complete melting. And all of a sudden, you're gonna start to see shifts. All of a sudden, you're gonna start to see changes. So those are 3 solutions the focusing on your why, creating the 80-20 lifestyle, and compound effect, small incremental changes.